December 3rd, 2020 Master Plan Update Committee meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. The Town of Chelmsford Master Plan Update Committee will be conducting a remote public meeting on Thursday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. Okay, so first item on the agenda is open session. We use, does anybody like to speak? I don't see anybody, so age friendly, Fred's here. Welcome, Fred. You want to give us an update?
Yeah, thanks, George. Regarding the age-friendly Chelmsford Action Plan, I'm in the process of incorporating the final comments in preparation of sending it to the town manager and the select board for their approval.
Okay. Fred's going to join us back in the transportation section for the age-friendly. There's a couple edits that he had sent over to Evan that didn't make it, so we'll come back to that at a later date. So we'll call the first item economic development. I know we just got that paperwork today. Jay, you want to go over it with us? And
yeah. Based on the comments of the last meeting, I updated the draft economic development chapter, and I start with the first page in terms of the goal statement. The goal statement reads: revitalize the Chelmsford economy by addressing the COVID-19 impact through new businesses, resolving the sewer capacity issues, redeveloping aging, vacant, and for sale properties, utilizing the Economic Development Commission to market the community and attract growth businesses which enhance the town's tax base and create well-paying jobs in a manner that balances job creation with quality of life. So the 5 bullets down below could address the COVID-19 impact by attracting distribution and fulfillment centers, ghost kitchens, and dark kitchens, while also supporting at-home workers. Second point, develop a 5-year plan to address the sewer capacity issue and work with NIMCOG and Great and Old communities to increase capacity for the economic future of the region. Third, encourage the redevelopment of aging, vacant, and for sale properties into small-scale neighborhood businesses that achieve higher and better uses. Fourth is utilize the Economic Development Commission to support and expand local businesses and market the town to expand employment opportunities. And the final one is target economic investment in the following areas: Center Village, the Route 129, Technology Corridor, Drum Hill, Final Square, Route 3, Route 40, Interchange, Route 110, Littleton Road, and Chelmsford Street.
I'd like to ask a question here. I agree with everything here. I guess my question is, should we lead in with the COVID-19 impact, or should that be later in that first goal statement paragraph? It just because right now COVID is now and probably next year. I know it's a big issue now. Not sure it will be in 5 years from now.
That's the reason I put it first, just because it was immediately impacting our economy.
All right. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Want to go on to the other changes?
Sure.
Some minor edits for the next section that we get to.
Actually, let me just go back. Does anyone else have any comments on those goal statements from the committee before we get too far?
You can still modify them later if you want.
Okay.
You go to page 29, Dustin. Dealing with the East Chelmsford Water District. On the next page, I made some changes based on the information that George was able to pull together. And also some of the information, they told us that the residential property at 62 River Neck Road was developed to increase capacity. But those other properties are still available to increase capacity. The only other information we could get for 2020 was in terms of residential uses, that it was 81.02 per 12,500 gallons, and that it had increased to $9.48 per 1,000 gallons over that original amount. So I don't know, and I know you asked George whether or not they had anything on the other rates. So I just referenced the other rates as the 2009 data.
Yeah, I don't think it changed. I think it was on their website. I don't think it changed at all.
Even for light commercial and commercial industrial.
Yeah, I don't think it changed, but I'll double check.
All right. So those are the changes I put in there. The next section is on page 36. Evan was able to provide me with some information on commercial building permits for 2019. And we took a look at the commercial building permits for 2019. And can you move that up a little bit, Justin? So we can see the chart. No, up.
Down
Down.
the page.
So in 2019, there were 14 commercial building permits over $100,000 in value, totaling $53,368.92. 49 million of that was for one project. So it's also excludes under the commercial building permits, they had 3 churches, so I excluded that. But the property that was 49 million was at 278 Mill Road with Lemos Family LLC. I assume they're building a building. So that one parcel kind of inflates the numbers. But I was able to update that information for you. It just shows you the level of activity that's going on in the community. The next information on page 41. Just put in there, added the sentence under Center Village Action Committee continues to oversee and promote development in the CV. Then on page 43, I included the same thing about the North Village Master Plan Committee in terms of being involved in overseeing, promoting development in Vinyl Square. If you go to page 46, the bottom of that, we have that talking about the impact of COVID-19, and as a result of COVID-19, more people working from home, and there are an increased number of retail and office vacancies. The town will need to develop a short to intermediate range strategy to address the new investment opportunities created by the pandemic until the situation returns to normal through the availability of vaccines or other COVID-19 treatments. Well, one of the things we talked about was we weren't sure how long this was going to continue, but we should take advantage of the distribution centers and ghost kitchens and what else is out there right now while we're in this situation. So down below the paragraph in red, this is a paragraph that I revised. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, Evan. I don't know if it reflects what you were trying to say before.
I appreciate the wordsmithing. I will take a closer look at it, though. Thank you.
Okay, so basically it talks about the Skips restaurant model being the model for redevelopment in town, and that's the type of thing that you want to try to do. Talks about how it came out of the conversation in the last meeting, how generally the neighbors generally favor residential development over commercial development, which acts as a barrier to commercial development happening. It talks about the fact that you need additional housing anyway to support the economic development of the community. It talks about the challenges facing the Route 129 crossroads area. So while these issues all present a challenge, recommendations outlined in this chapter will provide an economic development strategy in addressing these issues. So this is part of the trying to identify what the issues are, and then trying to make sure we're able to address it through an overall strategy. The next section. My screen is blank. Here it is. Next section is just some minor edits. I put community development action grants down there before, but they're part of MassWorks now. So I made those corrections. On page 51.
Okay.
We just put in the reference there about continuing to work with the North Village Master Plan Committee. On page 52, recommendations. We had corrected the typo that George found in that first paragraph. And down below, talked about the town should address these e-commerce opportunities at the spring 2021 town meeting, make these initiatives eligible by right within the zoning bylaw. Distribution and fulfillment centers can be located in all commercial and industrial districts and should be permitted while the pandemic continues to impact the community. More residents working from home, which has an impact on the normal transportation and purchasing patterns as well. So part of our discussion in the last meeting talked about moving forward and trying to get spring town meeting take up the revisions to the zoning bylaw to allow these different types of businesses to be approved by right. The page 53. George had recommended expanding the scope of what you look at under marijuana establishments. I understand that there was a provision limiting retail facilities or approving retail facilities. And I think the purpose here was just to see what was out there and what the requirements might be, and see whether or not there was opportunities in the transportation area, or their warehousing area, or something like that, as being different from the retail area.
Just to quick comment on this, where it says except for retail. My only, I guess, notation to the committee is, I think Lisa and I have both mentioned that most of the inquiries over the last several years have been for retail. However, those inquiries have never have never advanced to the Board of Selectmen and or Planning Board, primarily because none of those interested parties could find an appropriate location that was zoned to allow medical. And strategically, at least from staff's perspective, we've been telling interested parties, in order to advance this conversation, we highly encourage them to find a location that was zoned industrial, and then have that conversation with the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board. So I'm not sure if the Master Plan Committee wants to go to the extent of saying except for retail, which essentially would likely be interpreted as closing the door, or if you want to soften it up a little bit to allow consideration of the chief elected bodies to entertain that conversation based upon specific interested parties.
So Evan, there was a resolution passed saying that they wouldn't, town would not support retail facilities. Was that through town meeting or was it through the Board of
It's
Selectmen?
Zoning.
It's essentially the zoning,
Zoning.
yes.
So
So if,
town meeting voted on, we were allowed to ban marijuana because we had a no vote in our town, and town meeting voted
Okay.
to
Yeah.
deep six all of it, except I think the planning board addressed medical marijuana prior to that vote, and we allowed it in industrial district. I think that I get what Evan's saying is, and that is, I have to think about how to wordsmith that sentence, but because it breaks down into the research and facilities and the grow facilities of the manufacturer, basically the planning board, it should be left up to the planning board to review all aspects of it and determine if something should be brought forward to the town to allow some or all of the four sections of that marijuana law.
George, are you basically suggesting that it be look at both recreational and medical, or just medical?
No, I think we're past the medical. I think it's for the recreational part of it, because the recreational part of it, my understanding, the way the four sections break down, is you have your retail, you have your grow or manufacturer, your transport, and your testing labs. Right now, we don't allow any of it. We don't allow testing, we don't allow grow, we don't allow transport, which transport will go to storage, I would assume. In retail, I mean, why can't we have 3 out of the 4 be allowed in town? That's the thing that the planning board needs to vet out. And then, you got to get a feel for it for a town meeting. And as more facilities open, people are finding that, it doesn't seem to be, I don't want to say a big deal, but, if they're done right in the right locations, with the right people, it seems to have, somewhat of a little bit of an, not much of an impact, So I get where Evan's saying. I would take out the except for retail part, and I would change that sentence altogether. That it should be investigated whether the town should move forward with some or all the different aspects of the marijuana industry. So I'm not sure how to exactly word that just yet, but I think, I don't know, Mike, what do you think? I mean, we've had discussions on this before.
I think for purposes of stating a direction, we should probably not specifically eliminate retail. My hunch is that ultimately what the town's going to want is not going to include retail, but I don't think we should presuppose it. I think what you say is good. We'll look at all the aspects.
Yeah, look at all the aspects and then make that determination, sometimes baby steps, sometimes you bring, the 3 out of 4 forward and leave the retail up for now or something,
Yeah, it might very well look like that.
And you go from there, sometimes baby steps works better than trying to go for the whole pie, so.
Right.
That's just my take on it. Any other members? I think Joe Reddy's with us now, and Scott, I don't know if Scott's with us yet. Bill?
I would just say that ultimately, oh, sorry, I mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Joe.
That many of the other communities started to adopt it anyway. And I think you can probably turn to Air and look at like Gage and some of these other places that I don't think it brings a higher crime rate. I think wherever someone's actually using the product is probably the end result of whatever it creates. So I don't know. I think we should review it again, truthfully. I don't think it has a huge impact on the community. I think people are already using products, using products. So
yeah.
where they obtain them, I don't think is relevant.
Bill?
Yeah, I agree. I would strike except for retail.
Okay. All right, I think and I don't know if Nancy's with us, but I'm sure she would agree to accept the retail part. So, so Jay, you got that? You want to rework that sentence and?
What do you want me to just cut out except for retail and then at the end put in the future or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that gives a lot of wiggle room just to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to have the planning board do the review, or do you want to leave it open?
I would leave it open,
Okay.
planning, because it's gonna be planning board, could be a board of selectmen, more than likely be planning board. Because it may require some modification to a bylaw, which means it has to go back before town meeting. For a revote to rescind the earlier vote. I'm not sure how that would work, but that's something that can be addressed with town council at a later date.
So this generally falls under the items for the Economic Development Commission. We can start a review of it and then work with the planning board or whoever else they need to work with. Take a look at the different options.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, the other part of it too is that, the local option tax that goes on that marijuana, so.
Yep.
Not to say I'm thinking about extra tax revenue. All right,
Sure.
let's move along.
And the next page. Just a minor change to that second paragraph. The third paragraph, we had a long discussion on this the last meeting, and now reads, encourage the planning board to review the effectiveness of the approved overlay districts and recommend changes to encourage commercial development and stay consistent with private marketplace. The flexibility of the overlay districts will help to implement the economic development goals and objectives of the master plan. And then the last sentence was what was outlined there before. I don't know if you want to add to that, George, or
I think it's good.
you had a good long discussion on it.
No, I think it's good.
Okay. Next one, we had a long discussion on too, for the establishment mixed-use redevelopment district on Route 110. And then at the bottom it says utilize the CEILD to address properties in disrepair or underutilized. Implement a redevelopment strategy for small-scale neighborhood businesses that will encourage the highest and best use for aging properties that are vacant or being sold. This strategy will help to minimize the impact upon sewer capacity while increasing tax revenues for the community.
So just on that same one, should the line that starts implement a redevelopment strategy, should that be a separate bullet point?
We can, but for this particular area, that's what I think that's what we were talking about in terms of the old
Okay.
commercial buildings.
Sure. Okay. I'm good.
The next page talked about sewer capacity issues. And what Devin was saying was the short-term steps are to go to town meeting and to follow the Weston and Sampson report, those recommendations. There needs to be something going further. And I just outlined, develop a 5-year plan to address sewer capacity issues and work with NIMCOG, the city of Lowell, and the other greater Lowell communities. There should be to collectively address this issue. The economic future of the region depends on resolving this issue. It's not just Chelmsford. I didn't know if Evan had anything else in mind in terms of other types of things over the next 5 to 10 years he wants to include in here.
No, I mean, I think the Weston and Sampson report is likely going to identify short and, items that the town could undertake for the first 5 years. And then there'll likely be a 5 to 10 year time frame as well. But I think as long as this report talks about the Weston and Sampson report, which I believe should be available by spring town meeting, I think this report would cover the best information we have.
Okay. My notes just said needs more updates. So I try to include that with the use of a 5-year plan.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think it addresses the Weston and Sampson report and looking out 5 years and, even, develop a 5 to 10 year plan. You put that in there too, 5 to 10 year plan.
5 to 10 year plan. Okay. Okay, the next page. Originally, we talked about the distribution fulfillment centers in the Drum Hill area. So we kind of broke that out. We talked about the development of distribution and fulfillment centers, ghost kitchens, and dark stores in industrial commercial districts throughout the community. Submit changes to the zoning bylaw at the spring 2021 town meeting to allow these uses by right. So that way we're saying that it's available in any commercial industrial district, not just Drum Hill.
Yeah, the only commercial district that off the top of my head may have some sensitivity is CA, neighborhood commercial. On the other hand, that putting some of these facilities such as a ghost kitchen in a neighborhood commercial district may support the previous goal of trying to get smaller neighborhood type businesses. I'm not sure that a ghost kitchen or a dark store helps with neighborhood commercial districts. In fact, it may be detrimental to a CA district.
But wouldn't you think that would be when the planning board digs deeper into this, they would look at that?
Yeah. Again, agreed. I mean, George, in your spirit, I'm trying to begin to read these recommendations as being high level. But I continue to find myself reading it literally. And someone may read this saying that, oh, their intent was, or they did not specifically say, not in the CA. So we pick and choose certain recommendations where we want to be specific and where we want to be less specific. So it just jumps to my attention.
So one of the things you could write in there at the end of that sentence, commercial districts throughout the community, without having a detrimental effect to residential neighborhoods,
Yeah.
or something to that effect.
Yep.
While we're here, can I just jump back one bullet point? And maybe Beverly can think about this, and I don't need an answer tonight, but the temporary Rock Bridge is now moving forward a little bit to become more permanent. And of course, you know, that right now, the way that bridge is, it does back up into Drum Hill and affects traffic issues in Drum Hill. So, you know, should there be any notation about, you know, making that bridge more permanent, so it doesn't negatively impact the Drum Hill corridor? I don't know if that's something, you know, for the town to keep an eye on. I know it's in Lowell, but it does affect Chelmsford.
Order portion of the Rock Bridge feasibility study was done. There was a look taken at trying to do some widening and increase capacity on Drum Hill Road. And it was basically dismissed as being feasible because of some of the wetland impacts on the Lowell portion of the road, and the fact that for the Lowell section, there's a lot of residential properties that are right up against the road, and there was really no way of doing anything there without impacting them.
Mhm.
So that was really dismissed. It didn't seem to make sense to just do that in Chelmsford and create just this bottleneck partway down the road.
Sure.
So at this point, I mean, I think it's still worth looking at. There would be ways to do some, you know, pedestrian enhancements there. There's a lot of multifamily housing in the Lowell section and some in the Chelmsford section as well, so that people could at least walk to some of their destinations there. But I'm not really sure what else you would do. You could probably do some streetscape improvements, but there's not really a way to create additional capacity. But from an economic development perspective, are you suggesting that there be a look taken more on the land use level in terms of what opportunities might be there for additional development?
I was just looking at it at the viewpoint does. I really like to see a permanent bridge there. And if Chelmsford can help push that along, I think that it would be a good thing. And that if there's any improvements coming, you know, from Route 3 to that bridge that can be made, whether it's traffic lights, there's congestion at Parkhurst and the Drum Hill Road intersection where Enterprise Bank is, you know, synchronize the lights from the rotary all the way to the bridge. I know the bottleneck you're talking about, it goes from Westford Street to Princeton Street. You know, there's wetlands on one side, there's the apartments on the other side. You know, so it would be pretty difficult to widen that section out. But, you know, synchronizing of the lights and all the way from the rotary right to the bridge would be, I know it'd be a major undertaking, but it would help with traffic flowing through Drum Hill. So, but it's okay. It was just a thought. All right, let's move on. I don't want to get too hung up on it. That's all.
Good. You want to have a tie in there with the bridge in this section, from that point?
I just brought it up because I thought it might be something to tie in, but that's fine. I mean, because that go with the traffic issues and that type of thing in Drum Hill. But I'm not going to get hung up on it. Don't worry about it. Let's move on.
Okay. And so the only other change I put in here was talking about the Route 3 Highway Interchange Market Study, saying it's going to be completed by the spring of 2021. And those are the changes I got from the last meeting.
Okay.
I don't know if I missed anything.
I don't think so. Let's go to the members of the committee. Do you have any questions for Jay?
Not here.
Okay.
Done.
Bill, you're good. Joe, you're good. Yes,
I'm
no?
good.
Nancy? We'll take that as she's good.
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. I think I got everybody, right? Is Scott here with us? No. Okay. All right, let's move on. Evan, do you have any comments?
Oh, this looks good. I'm still going to do a final read through.
Okay,
And I'll submit whatever edits may come about.
all right. And I would encourage the rest of the members of the board to do that as well. Read through it. If you see something, email those comments directly to Evan, Beverly, and Jay. Don't email them to everybody, please. Even if it's a question, if you have a question about it, send it to them, and then we'll discuss that question at the next meeting, okay? All right, let's move to the transportation section.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So I just want to go over some of the comments that we received on the transportation section tonight, and take any questions you have as well. Let's see if I can find the remote. So the first comment that we received is on page 5. The comment was on table 2, summary of principal arterial roadways in the town of Chelmsford. North Road was not included in the table, and the comment was to include it, so we did. Really, the only reason that we didn't have it in there because North Road is actually considered a minor arterial instead of a principal. It's just a classification thing, and so we didn't initially include it, but we can include it for you. So we did that. And another comment on page 5. Someone asked about Bartlett Street being classified as a collector. Is that Mike? So according to Federal Highways functional classification, Bartlett Street is still considered a collector road, connects two arterials. I know Route 27 and 4, but I know it's one way at the Route 27 end. So it hasn't been reclassified. In order to reclassify a roadway, you got to send in an application, and it goes through the MPO and it goes to MassDOT and then on to Federal Highway for approval, because this is a federal functional classification for a roadway. But we can help if you want to change it.
Why did we want to change it?
I just questioned whether it was a connector. It doesn't really connect anything the way it's configured.
Yeah, because they've made it one way at that one end.
Yeah.
So, really,
So just so you understand, this is kind of a difficult thing to understand, but the Federal Highway Administration has all this criteria for determining whether something is an arterial or a collector roadway. And they have sort of a whole system of hierarchy. It's kind of like a wiring diagram, so that if you have a higher level arterial, it has to be connected with a collector road, and the determination of the functional classification depends on sort of the purpose and the function of the roadway. So the fact that this roadway connects two arterials would probably still make it a collector roadway, even if it is one way. There is a benefit to having it classified at a higher functional level, because that then makes that roadway eligible for federal funding. So once you take it out of that category and you make it a local roadway, it's no longer eligible for federal aid. So it's really, whether logically it makes sense that that's classified as a collector or not, it's to the benefit of the town, in that you could apply for federal funds to make improvements on the roadway.
So how do we get more on?
So why would something like Turnpike and Mill Road not be considered collector roads, but Bartlett is?
Well, at the time when they did the classification, it probably was partly related to the volume of traffic on the roadway, for one thing.
So Turnpike and Mill Road are considered arterials. So they're actually at a higher classification than Bartlett Street.
Okay.
Okay. So next comment was about unaccepted roads. Comment was they didn't seem accurate. We initially had a 11.42 miles listed. This came from MassDOT's road inventory, which they use to calculate your Chapter 90 funding. So we decided to check with the DPW to gather what their list was, and they actually came back with 15.85 miles of unaccepted roads. And you actually want to have the lower number so you can have higher Chapter 90 funds. But I'm working with Steve Yonley to compare the two lists and see where they differ, and see if we can get like one actual number that's accurate. So we're going to continue to work on that. Okay. So next comments on page 9. So the comment was the North Road Bridge over 495. We originally had it as currently under construction. Actually, it's at full beneficial use. That's the term for it. Technically, the project is still under construction. There are some checklist items that still need to be done on the project, so I didn't change it here. We can change it if you'd like, but the bridge is no longer structurally deficient. I don't have any updates on current inspections on that one, but I've reached out to MassDOT about that. And same thing for the Hunt Road Bridge. The project is complete. I don't know the results of the latest inspection, so we'll address that. Okay, so the next comments on page 27. Okay, so earlier this week we received feedback from the police department and the DPW with a list of different comments that were sort of interspersed throughout the rest of this chapter. But I want to start out with the fact that we added a section on the Chelmsford Traffic Safety Committee, which was comprised of the town manager, the assistant town manager, representative from the select board, the police chief, the fire chief, and the DPW director and assistant director. And their goal is to investigate and address safety concerns received from residents in Chelmsford. And we wanted to make mention of some of the recent activities of the committee. The effort to monitor heavy vehicle traffic on Ledge Road and Dunstable Road and Swain Road, and NIMCOG has been monitoring that, as well as the police department. So there's been a lot of activity in that area over the past few years. And they've also been involved with discussions on traffic flow at Littleton Road in Chelmsford Center. And they've also provided recommendations for improving traffic flow on North Road approaching the Common. Basically trying to restrict Westford Street access to North Road and redirecting that traffic to the signal at Academy Street. So we wanted to add that section in there as well. And if anybody has anything to add to that, we can take that.
Yeah, just to clarify, Justin.
Yep.
So the 3 bullets are examples, but this committee, I think, has looked at or is in the process of looking at well over 100 individual resident comments that dated back to a Board of Selectmen townwide traffic input session.
Yeah, I was there. I was there for that.
Yeah, and then based upon that, the town manager then implemented the traffic safety committee.
Okay.
So I think, the major messages are this committee is the official kind of forum for the town manager to address citizen and board complaints or concerns or issues in a formal process, report back to the Board of Selectmen as they're the road commissioners. But they deal with anything from speed-related issues, truck exclusion routes, four-way stop signs, all the typical resident kind of roadway jurisdictional items that ultimately would require Board of Selectmen action as the road commissioners, or other actions such as geometric modifications that wouldn't necessarily require select board action. What's interesting is this recommendation actually appeared in the 2010 master plan, but it had never really gained any traction or attention. So this is a good example where if and when the Board of Selectmen actually prioritize an issue or an item, in this case, they held a townwide forum, indirectly, a traffic safety committee was created.
Okay. Well, we can add to this. Let's see. And in addition to that, we received a bunch of comments from the police department. I believe they had a conversation with Evan, and he sent over a list of some of the items that they work on in town, and we wanted to include. We basically included the full list. They have department has officers dedicated to enforcement. They enforce speed using alert radar boards. They look at heavy truck traffic enforcement, especially in the Ledge and Dunstable and Main Street. And we've had discussions with the police chief recently about Main Street as well. And, they collaborate with Massachusetts State Police on truck enforcement. They analyze traffic data and try to identify traffic safety issues in those identified areas. They use data analysis to identify high accident locations so they can increase enforcement and look into safety enhancements. They have a social media aspect where they notify the public of road construction and other town events. They utilize grants to enhance traffic and pedestrian safety. The department uses the C-Click Fix application that's used to get input from the public on various things that the residents will see in the community, and they can send that into the department. And they've made several recommendations for flashing beacons at pedestrian crosswalks, illuminated stop signs at Graniteville and School Street. They put a permanent fixed radar board on Main Street, and made recommendations for other traffic signals. And so I think the last one is, the chief is part of the town traffic safety committee. So is there anything that we want to add to that?
I'm good with it. The chief wrote it, so I mean, if anybody knows, I think that's fine.
Okay. All right, next comment. Go too far. Okay, so next comment was we wanted to add information on the Care Ride pilot transportation program. So we had a paragraph explaining how the elder services of Merrimack Valley initiated this program called Care Ride. It's on demand. It's a pilot transportation program right now, and the service it provides is alternatives for senior citizens who are unable to accommodate people who need rides for non-emergency medical appointments. And they use kind of an Uber, an on-demand type of platform with accessible vans. And the service is available throughout the Merrimack Valley, and including the greater Lowell area, Chelmsford, and service into Boston for anyone over 65. It's referral based, and it goes through the COA, and the cost is $4 per ride. So we wanted to make sure that was included here in this section as well. And then we get into the age-friendly action plan. And so this is a section on the town's efforts to develop their age-friendly action plan. And I know we heard that this is in draft form, and we're going through the process of getting this finalized right now. And so we added narrative on some of the transportation related challenges for seniors in Chelmsford that came out of the master plan survey, came out of listening sessions with the age-friendly transportation team. And so we added that section. I don't know if anyone wants to.
I think Fred might have some comments on it.
Sure,
Fred, are you
Fred.
still there?
I'm still here.
You had some comments on this section?
Yeah, I did. I can go down through them briefly if you wish.
Yes, please.
Okay, on the opening paragraph, line number 3, it said within the results of Chelmsford's transportation survey. Would like to delete that. That survey wasn't as successful as we wanted it to be, and there was a very few amount of people that participated, so we didn't think it was worthy of reference in the master plan update. The next comment I had was in the third major bullet, the first sub-bullet, where it says an estimated 400 plus residents. Insert the word senior in between 400 plus and residents.
Okay.
And then the fourth bullet, it said the senior center lacks the capacity. Would like to change that to read that there is a continuing need to assess the town's capacity to meet residents' unmet demand for doctor/medical appointments, pharmacies, grocery shopping, general shopping, and other transportation shopping needs. And Evan has these comments, Justin, so he can
Okay.
forward them to you.
Okay.
The other comment I had is on the bottom bullet. After Boston area hospitals, add an Emerson Hospital in Concord, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And on the next page, we wanted to delete the second bullet. We're not sure where that came from, and we have no idea of what it means. So we wanted to delete that. And on the next bullet, we wanted to change the beginning of the sentence to read, continue to explore. The COA has explored contractual amendments to that contract, and so far we haven't been successful. So we don't want to stop that effort. We want to continue to explore those amendments.
Okay. Do that.
But I'd just like to add a comment here. In the early phases of the age-friendly initiative, when we asked the core team, which comprised town employees, town officials, stakeholders, residents, et cetera, if they were to prioritize the 8 domains of the age-friendly effort, how would they prioritize them? And housing and transportation were unanimously prioritized up at the top. And I think that perspective was validated by by your survey that talked about transportation. So transportation is a important issue. One of the listening sessions that we had early on, as the transportation section in the action plan was being prepared, was held at the senior center, and I attended that, and it was one of the most well-attended listening sessions we had. There were about 25 people there at the time. And one observation I had was that there were a lot of people there asking questions about services. And it revealed the fact that they weren't aware of the services, the transportation services in particular, that are already being offered by the town. When we informed them that all you have to do is call the senior center and arrange a ride on the van, they were very surprised. So I'm expecting in the implementation of the action plan action items that our communication and information domain is going to collaborate very closely with transportation and some of the other domains to increase the amount of information that gets out there to the public, so that the public is aware of what services Chelmsford already offers.
Evan, you get those comments over to Justin. Anyone on the committee have any comments on this section or any questions for Fred?
None.
I got one, none. Okay, I'm gonna assume everyone else has
I'm
no
all set.
comments. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we can move on.
Yep.
So I think Evan forwarded us a summary report from the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, some of their activities that they've undertaken over the last 10 years or so. So we wanted to just beef up this BPAC paragraph a little bit, just to get a little tighter about who they are and what they do. So when we looked at what they provided, so we included how they were established in 2008. We included the fact that the 2010 master plan called for a creation of the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and BPAC led that effort, finishing it in 2016. So we talked about that, and then we took from their summary report that was sent out the fact, some of their latest activities, the things they did in 2019, and we wanted to note that they have an ongoing conversation with the DPW. They meet with them on an annual basis to talk about any kind of projects and initiatives related to bicycle and pedestrian activities. So we included the 2019 portion from that summary report that was sent. We can go back further if you'd like, but in 2019 they talked about discussing e-bikes on the Bruce Freeman Trail. They talked a lot about maintenance. They actually came to an MPO meeting to talk about maintenance and how to fund maintenance and who was responsible for funding of the maintenance of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And they also looked at coordinating an installation of another kiosk, this time at Hart Pond. And they're finalizing plans for the Carol Clavin Memorial. So those are the items that they included in the 2019. We can go back further if you'd like, or if you have any comments on that.
I think it's fine. You referenced the plan too, so that's my opinion. Other board members? Okay, I'm just gonna call people. Mike? Nancy, can you turn your computer off or mute yourself?
Yeah, just a minute. Sorry.
So we're back to, does anyone want to add to that BPAC paragraph or referencing the plan? Is that sufficient? Anybody?
Good with me.
Fine.
Fine here.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
let's move on. Just
moving on. What page am I on here?
page 40.
Page 40. Okay, this was another comment that came in from DPW. They mentioned that they've installed rectangular rapid flash beacons at multiple locations in Chelmsford Center, at the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail crossings and school crossing locations. So we wanted to make sure that was noted in the bike and ped and section as well.
Justin, on page 41 is the map of the sidewalks. I think
Yep.
DPW had a comment about that map.
This actually, yeah, the comment was that it was dated. We actually initially we had taken data from the MassDOT road inventory file. So what we went back and we talked with the DPW about getting Chelmsford's latest sidewalk map. So this is the latest version. It was updated in January of this year. And we included this map, which is just the inventory of sidewalks, plus some of the design, some of the stuff in construction and design. You see the dashed lines here, and some of the future issues, I think over here on Main Street, with some future sidewalk locations. So we did that, and we also included a sidewalk condition map based on Chelmsford's inspections, based on DPW's inspections. So we have two maps on the sidewalk now.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
and let's see, on page 40, next page here, 43. Okay, so this is another comment from DPW about beefing up the Complete Streets program section. So we added more narrative about the Complete Streets program, add more information on timelines of the prioritization plan when it was adopted by the town, the fact that they were awarded $50,000 for development of that through the state Complete Streets program. And we added in 2018, they received $328,000 through the program for improving sidewalks along Billrica Road, for multimodal improvements along Richardson Road, and a crosswalk at Parkhurst Road and North Road. So we added that, and the next section is roadway improvements to the Northern Middlesex Transportation Improvement Program. This is another comment from the DPW. So we added this as a new section, and we just talked about how the town has been proactive in working with the Northern Middlesex MPO and MassDOT to secure federal funds for construction of improvement projects. And we made note of the recent projects in 2019, receiving $5.7 million for intersection improvements at Billrica Road and Riverneck Road. And last year, this year, we received $3.2 million for improvements to Boston Road Concord Road intersection, and that is currently going towards construction, hasn't quite started yet. And we also included federal future projects. So some of the projects in Chelmsford eligible for the TIP right now, installation of traffic signals at 495 and Route 110, and as well as a corridor project on Chelmsford Street as you approaching Chelmsford Center. And they also noted that next year they're planning to submit a new application for TIP funding to make improvements at Richardson Road and Princeton Street. So I believe that's all the comments that I have. If anyone has anything to add, I think I got most everything.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I do think that we should put in a comment that the town should be adding more sidewalks to main roads.
Just to clarify, is the next step with this process to then issue for NIMCOG to issue the issues and opportunities?
Issues and opportunities and recommendations.
Okay,
So Evan, I don't know if you might have some time next week to go over the recommendations that were in the previous master plan so that we can identify what was implemented and what still remains to be done.
sure, I can do that.
Okay,
So to Joe's comment, that would likely be picked up in the issues and opportunities.
correct. And there'll also be a section added about the input from the survey. And I think that was a pretty prevalent comment on the survey in terms of people's desire to have more sidewalks.
Okay. So since this report was basically like existing conditions, so to speak,
Correct.
I had I guess three bullets that I wrote down. One was the recent announced MBTA cuts related to COVID.
Yep.
I don't know if that's worthy of putting in. I don't know how relevant it is to Chelmsford, greater Lowell.
Just affects the service on the commuter rail.
No LRTA bus routes are impacted. Okay.
No.
They're not part of the MBTA system.
Oh, that's a good point. Yep. Yep.
So, but it does, there will be no commuter rail service after 9 PM during the week and no weekend commuter rail service.
Okay.
So for some, Chelmsford residents who maybe work at a Boston hospital or some other location in Boston, that may be a hardship for some people.
Is the LRTA and other regional transit authorities contemplating similar measures?
I don't think they are at this time. They made some schedule cutbacks right after the COVID hit when their ridership plummeted to try to address some of the impacts. And they have gotten, I think the LRTA got like $11 million of CARES Act funding, which
Yeah.
helped
Well,
help fill that hole for them. So right now I haven't heard any discussion of further cuts.
Okay. Next one was George's comments when we were discussing economic development related to the Rock Bridge. I wonder if it's worthwhile maybe mentioning that briefly, as well as any other kind of cross-jurisdictional regional transportation issues or projects that are pending. So I throw that out there. And the last one I have is kind of the theme for the last at least 5 to 7 years in Chelmsford pertaining to transportation has been Mass DOT jurisdiction. So I wonder if it's possible to include a map showing the roadways that are Mass DOT jurisdiction. I think you have a table. Do you have a map as well?
yeah, we have a map. I mean,
Okay.
it's not in here, but we can add
Okay.
it.
We
Yeah.
can create a map pretty easily showing that. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that's it. Over the last, we've reached a point where, as the report shows, the Chelmsford DPW and the town has plans and does a good job addressing maintenance and improvements on town-owned roads. But increasingly, the traffic advisory committee, Center Village, North Village, and projects that the planning board reviews and approves, increasingly they're on state roads. And the town is very reluctant to spend its time or energy seeking funding for state jurisdictional roads. So at a minimum, it may be like an educational item to introduce that map in the master plan and and maybe have some text related to this particular issue. And then the final item related to MassDOT is it may be beneficial to include a text or a map showing where their planned improvements are over the next handful of years. I've come to learn that they compartmentalize between maintenance projects and non-maintenance projects. And this was something that, again, it appears to be an increasing issue where, I'll give you an example, Kingsborough Road, the North Village Master Plan identified installing sidewalks. They also acknowledged that it was a state road. And within the last 6 months, MassDOT repaved Kingsborough Road, I believe under a maintenance contract. The town was provided very little notification, and that basically caught town officials off guard when the members of the North Village Master Planning Committee were asking, how come you weren't more aware of this, and why couldn't you have made an effort to get the sidewalks included? So that's just a small example, something that I think will likely insert into the issues and opportunities. My message
This might be a good item for discussion at our MPO meeting as well, because even we aren't aware, like we didn't know that they were going to pave Tingsboro Road. It's not put on the tip as a project. It's just like a maintenance contract that they let out that has a whole bunch of roads in the district on there.
And what we've been told is that they may not even know until very shortly. It wasn't very clear to me how long these kind of short-term projects are in the queue in order to.
What I've learned over the years is that what those projects are usually done like towards the end of the fiscal year when they suddenly discover they have money left over. And gee, what can we do with this money? And they call them book jobs because they don't require any design.
Yeah, exactly.
But there should be some forethought given to this, at least have a list of priority projects that they might do if they have money, so that the town's on notice that it's like in the queue to be worked on. But I don't know, Evan, if you're implying, I can tell you that some communities have actually sought out a way to take some of these state controlled roads back, and the town has taken responsibility for them. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah, I mean, that concept is not in the current master plan. It appears in the Vinyl Square master plan related to the actual square. So again, I would agree that to me, that's a worthwhile recommendation or something to talk about in this plan. From recent discussions, the town is still not inclined to spend their time or energy advancing or trying to convince MassDOT, to essentially that if the town is going to consider accepting a state road, the town wants MassDOT to make the necessary improvements first.
So I'll give you an example of Westford, which Westford is now designing improvements to Boston Road from the town center down to the 495 ramps. So oddly enough, MassDOT actually owns from the 495 ramps about halfway up the hill toward the center to Crown Road. And everything from Crown Road to the center belongs to the town. So the town has struck a deal with MassDOT that they'll pay for all of the project design costs and the things the town would typically pay for the whole roadway project from the ramps up, if MassDOT will relinquish control of the roadway to the town, which they have agreed to do. So MassDOT will basically bring the road up to where the town wants it. They're installing sidewalks, et cetera, all the things that the town wants, bike lanes. And then there's an agreement that will be signed between the town and MassDOT saying the town will then, going forward, maintain that roadway. So it is done. And I think MassDOT will probably gladly relinquish these things because it's less money they have to spend on them.
It would.
So it's probably, worth having a discussion about that.
Yeah, I think to me, that's a worthwhile new concept to put in the plan. That's
Okay.
all I have, George.
Okay. All right, so anyone else have any comments in that section? Seeing none, we'll move on to facilities, I guess, at this point.
Just while NIMCOG is, are you gonna continue to stay with us for facilities?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Justin, can you bring that one up as well, please?
Yeah, got it.
So Evan, you want to take us through it or?
I haven't had a chance to look at the edits. I believe their track changed, but I'm not positive. Did anyone else have a chance to scroll through what DPW facilities may have changed? Or if it's
I did.
highlighted? They were not able to join us tonight. I had asked, there is a capital planning committee this evening. Otherwise, Gary would have joined us.
Let me see if I have one with the track changes. I don't. this is
I don't,
not
yeah, I
showing.
have a feeling they didn't track change.
This one doesn't have it.
So we may want to table this to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to look at it from the point of view of the changes.
I don't know if you're gonna get that, Mike. You're gonna have to compare one for the other.
Either that or have Gary, either that or have,
Or have Gary walk through it, yeah.
yeah, my understanding on this chapter, to refresh the committee's memory, is, so NIMCOG is not assisting on this particular chapter.
Yeah.
We've relied pretty much entirely on the facilities and DPW, the town manager, to update it accordingly. I believe that this version reflects all of the changes that they want to make. My intent was, and I think this is probably a good role for the committee, is for the committee collectively to put its kind of eyes and fingerprints on this. Very often, as you know, what a department views as important and their messaging may be slightly different than the committee's perspective.
You think?
So, yeah, so I recommend we continue to review this. It may, like I said, it may make sense just to table it and put it on the next meeting.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. All right. That'll allow everybody time to go through it. So while NEMCOG's still here, so we just need to, I think we just need to wrap those things up, the last couple sections, right?
Correct.
So when do we think we can just wrap up land use? Evan, what do you think for time frame as far as wrapping things up on those
Yeah, so
sections?
I still want to, as I've mentioned, I still want to do a fine tooth review, land use, zoning, economic development.
Yeah.
I could have that to NIMCOG prior to the next meeting, really whenever we decide to bring those back. Outside of NIMCOG, well, we still have the housing that I think is the final chapter. And then outside of NIMCOG, I got a revised set of edits on from the Historical Commission. So I could swing that back to the committee if you want.
So let me ask a question. Our next meeting is going to be December 17th. That's what we had scheduled, right? So is NEMCOG going to be at that meeting, or do you want to go to January so you can finalize those economic land use, get some Evan's comments?
Anyway,
January?
Yep.
And the housing in January as well?
I'll give you a technical paper in January.
Okay.
What date in January is that? The 7th or the 14th? The 14th?
So it'll be the 14th.
Okay, so the next time we see NIMCOG will be January 14th.
Right. So the
Okay.
17th, we can concentrate on our section facilities,
Yep.
historic. Okay. So So that will give you focus on those to get those to us as soon as you can. And that'll give NEMCOG time to clean up the last sections. Okay? Does that go with you, Bev and Jay and Justin?
Works for me.
Everyone's got a thumbs up, so we're good there. All right. That sounds like a good plan. Next item on agenda is public input discussion moving forward. I suppose we can just wait until January to see where we're at as far as everything goes, and we can present it. Figure out how to present this to the public and have either public input session or I'll just bring it to the selectmen and to the planning board and go from there. But we'll discuss that probably at the second meeting in January. We'll have a better feel for where we're at. All right. We basically described the next steps and actions. Last thing we would have is the minutes from October 8th. Vivian sent those out the other day. And I was wondering if everybody had an opportunity to look at them. Mike gives a thumbs up. Nancy gives a thumbs up. Joe and Bill, I can't see you, so I'm gonna get some thumbs up from you guys too.
Okay.
So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of October 8th?
Sure, I'll move it.
I have a motion by Mike. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Nancy. All those in favor, I guess a roll call. Mike,
Yeah,
Nancy,
aye.
Bill,
Yes.
Joe? Joe? No, Joe. George, yes. So we'll just put down as Joe abstained, so 401. Minutes approved. And I think that's it. Any final comments from Evan? Beverly? Justin? Jay?
Well set, thanks.
Fred? Mike? Nancy? She's all set. Bill?
Nothing?
Joe? One thing I neglected to do is on economic development, I forgot to ask Lisa for her comments. Tell her I apologize. And we do thank her for her hard work. So take a motion to, oh, we already got a motion to adjourn, so. Right?
Yep.
Have a good night.
Good night, all.
Night.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Christmas.